Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Council meeting for the 12th of February 2025, our first for 2025. Can we begin our meeting with our usual karakia, please? Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai. Ehi aki ana te atakura, hei tio, hei huka, hei hauhu, ti hei mōreora. Thank you. Welcome to councillors, welcome to staff, people in the gallery, Chair of Foxton Community, our Foxton Community Board, Mr. Gerling, and those attending online. We do have an apology from Councillor Proctor, and I've not heard from Councillor Young as yet. I assume he is still coming. And we have Councillor Boyle on Zoom. You can hear us, Councillor Boyle, all right?
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll move those apologies. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Allen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. We have one member of the public who wishes to speak to us today, and that's Viv Bold. Welcome, Viv.
Good morning. Happy New Year, all everybody. My main one this morning is the 7.1, the Esplanade Reserve reclassification and licence to occupy. Wake up, councillors. This is not the first time we've reclassified land to dish it out, e.g. Douglas Street. Levin has a very limited notifying basis this has been done. We now live in the 21st century, not the 20th. So 99-year leases aren't to be done. Even 33-year leases are a thing of the past. Land is now only leased for 5 to 10 years. I often wonder how the pop got its 40-year lease, because the land courts won't allow these kind of agreements anymore. To get this project underway, the council have accepted an offer from a developer, Grandeur Limited, that has seemed to have been agreed by councillors and for valuer costs and the costs of installation. Isn't it a conflict of interest? I personally didn't see any public notices going out, and I come into the council every week. I know the council instigated communication action which relies on people to access the website, but as we discussed yesterday at an access and incident meeting, there's only 46% of people that are illiterate. That's quite a big amount of us, eh? Anyway, and so I come into the council for hard copies on bits and pieces. So I find that in December especially, we get short notice on a lot of things because of the holidays. And I do think you should take this into consideration when you put your verdict in. So using this line of the absence of submissions could indicate that the community agreed to the acceptance of the proposal by the developer. I do not think this is right. This sounds like the lack of community consultation and concern of how they feel. The limited company aren't interested in people, the whenua, the urupa, the old marae, and the history that land brings. I feel, especially about the urupa, would you like people walking around your cemetery? Anyway, thank you. Developing the Ohau Beach is a significant environmental impact, and I'm sure with climate change the insurance will have a big handicap on it, like they do at Waitabury. There's somebody right on the beachfront, isn't there? Any questions? Oh, and the second thing that I put in the document I've given you is something that came out yesterday at Horizons of all the infringement notices and warnings and prosecutions, and I'm wondering how many of those have come through HDC, but I'll put it in a look over and ask, okay? Any questions?
Thank you, Viv. Chief Executive just advised me that, in fact, one of those abatement notices was issued to us,
Yes.
and that was in Tokomaru,
Abatement.
wastewater.
You also had one at the pot.
Well, no.
It was 642, and it only just come into my.
There might have been, sorry, a warning was issued.
That's right.
Yeah, but that's not an abatement notice.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
Thank you for that information.
Any questions for Viv?
Thank you.
Thank you. Right, moving on. Any late items? There are none. Thank you. Any declarations of interest of any councillors today? Councillor Horowhenua.
For consistency, I will note my perceived conflict now that they're no longer in the court process. However, with what's before us, I will declare that I have a conflict.
Referring to?
So previously, my conflict...
Sorry, just the item that you're referring to.
The reclassification.
Right, so 7.1. Yep, thank you. So noted. Right, minutes of our meeting. Can I move of 11th December be accepted as a true and correct record? Oh, sorry, Councillor Tommy Hunt.
Apologies, Your Honour. I was trying to get my bloody computer working and it's not working. I have to declare a conflict also. I am still an active trustee for Ngāti Kikopuri in regards to the Esplanade. So I just wanted to declare that conflict, that we have been engaged by Grenadier as hapu representatives and we are quite aware of the landscape and everything out there. But it won't disparage me from being able to be impartial to today's conversations and votes.
So noted, thank you. All right, so confirmation of the minutes. The meeting minutes of Council the 11th of December 2024 be accepted as a true and correct record. Seconded by Councillor Young. All those in favour? Against, carried. And that the meeting minutes of public excluded Council 11th of December 2024 be accepted as a true and correct record. Seconded by Councillor Jennings. All those in favour? Against, carried. Moving to 6.1, which is the mayoral report, I'll move that this report be received and noted. Seconded by Councillor Jennings. Any comments, questions in that report? Councillor Branning.
Really, just to really acknowledge the amount of functions and things that you continue to attend. And I know a lot of the stuff you do attend. I know it's part of your role, and I acknowledge that. But I know a lot of the stuff is after hours. It's in the weekends, and as a mayor, I know after hours is not such a thing. But I think it's time to acknowledge that the stuff you do attend, and it's feedback I get personally, that you are open, accessible, and will attend. Someone said the opening of an envelope, which is great. So I just want to acknowledge that, and thank you on behalf of the councillors that you continue to engage as you do. So thank you for that.
Appreciate those comments. Thank you. Look, if the public wish to invite me to events, I am more than happy to attend where I can. Okay, moving to 7.1, which is the Esplanade Reserve reclassification and licence to occupy topic, and noting that councillors will have received a more up-to-date agenda item for this report for this item, so it's slightly different from the one that you would have received originally from the when the agenda was released. So, moving recommendation A and B, the report be received and that this matter be recognised as not significant. seconded by Councillor Brannigan. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. So, welcome, Brent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Bernie. Good morning, councillors and members of the public. The purpose of today's report is to seek approval to reclassify the Horowhenua Road West Esplanade Reserve as a recreation reserve and to grant a licence to occupy to Grenadier Limited for the establishment of a golf course on a proportion of the reserve. This matter has been well discussed by Council and has followed due process, including public notification. Despite efforts to engage with the community through newspaper advertisements, direct outreach to partners, and information on the Council's website, no submissions have been received. Given the absence of objections, there is no reason why Council should not proceed with approving the recommendations. The proposed reclassification aligns with recreational use and provides clear environmental and cultural safeguards. The licence agreement also places responsibility on Grenadier Limited to build a public walkway, reducing costs to Council. With all statutory requirements met and no barriers to progression, I invite Council to consider the recommendations as outlined in the report.
Any questions, clarifications sought by councillors? Councillor Tamihana.
Good everyone. I've actually got quite a few questions, but please just bear with me because I've been having difficulties with my computer. Just speaking to the report that's presented to us, Brent, through you guys, there are a few questions for me that are a little bit outstanding because I don't feel the information's in this report today to be able to adopt what's been presented to us. I am interested in there about some attachments that don't seem to be presented to us today. So we've stated in there that we have support from iwi. I would like to see those letters of support being attached to the report. I've already presented here in many workshops and in public excluded forums concern about the way that this has been engaged. And so we are in an open forum today, so I'm going to be quite clear about some of the things I need to see before I could consider endorsing such a decision today. We also have an environmental court ruling that clearly determined that Ngāti Kikopiri were the mana whenua. Can that be included in the documentation, because it's actually important about how and who this council are engaging directly around the issue, because I understand through your brief document an MOU is in place between parties, but we're not even privy to those. So we're basing a decision here today when we don't actually have information in front of us about how that would operate. I'm sorry, Brent, there's a lot in here. You've also stated in the lease arrangement or the license arrangement that there'd be some cultural stuff that's going to be in there.
Sorry, Councillor Tamihana, can we just ask specific questions and then get the response straight away rather than have 10 questions that Brent's got to try and remember? Yeah, so just, start with your first question, if you like.
So the first question was, we've cited that iwi support it. I've asked, do we have those letters to attach to this report?
Through your worship, in I suppose with respect, Councillor Tamihana, if we'd been asked it prior to the meeting, we could have shared it prior to the meeting. We'll take your advice, your worship, on how you want to approach it. I certainly know that you've got an email that you'd be able to forward to councillors pretty imminently. Again, we'll take your advice, Mayor Bernie, on how you want us to provide that information to elected members, given the report has been provided in the agenda, so it's not like we can attach it to the agenda right now, but how we might distribute, particularly the correspondence from Ngāti Kikopiri,
Through you.
Sorry, named Ngāti Kōrero here, an environment court process. So where are the letters of support to this application from all those parties?
So, for absolute clarity, we do not have an MOU. We, Council, do not have an MOU with anyone related to this project. I think the reference to an MOU is Grenadier's MOU with those partners. what the advice in the paper that we're referring to is the conversations that we have had with iwi partners, some of which has resulted in a follow-up email, but that our iwi partners have not provided any opposition to the licence to occupy and the reclassification, which is the purpose of this report.
No, I don't agree. Like I said, the report clearly says that iwi support this project. I want to see those letters of support. Now, if you haven't got them and you're stating that they have them, then they should be attached to this report. So if that's an action that's required to conduct this, then that's what should be happening. But I can't, in my way, support this if I don't have the information in front of me, and I don't have one letter of support from any. I have assumptions that it was said. So that's the first one. Can I carry on?
Brent might want to speak to the work that we understand Grenadier are doing with iwi partners.
Thank you, Monique, through your worship. Yeah, and apologies for any confusion in the report. My understanding is that, as I documented in the report, that Grenadier have an MOU with both Ngāti Kikopiri and Mapuko Tribal Authority in relation to the development. Monique's this is correct. Throughout the consultation or the submission period, we haven't received anything from our directly from our iwi partners or hapu partners, despite direct emails to them on at least 2 occasions throughout the submission notice period.
Do we have any other correspondence from iwi partners not in the submission or the consultation period that should also be considered in this report?
No, I don't believe so. The only other we've got the indication from Ngāti Kikopiri that the CE alluded to. That was pre-submissions indicating support when we were going through the engagement process before I took the last paper to council, which I'm happy to share if that's the direction.
I think you've answered me. We don't have any letters of support. We're using old information from pre-court process. So I'll leave that there. The next question simply was, what was the next one I asked you? The Environment Court ruling. It's an important part about the process and who this council are engaging. So why wouldn't the Environment Court ruling be attached as a part of this decision-making process?
So the Environment Court decision was about the resource consenting process related to this project. The paper and the decision before council is about consideration of a licence to occupy and the reclassification. I think what I heard, but clarify if I've misinterpreted the question, Councillor Tamihana, is that in that Environment Court ruling, obviously the court weighed up whether council had in a satisfactory way engaged with those who had an interest in the land. In that ruling, there is some commentary around Ngāti Kikopiri having mana whenua status. That Environment Court ruling doesn't take away council's obligation to ensure that when we publicly notify this process, which is a separate process to the resource consent process because it's about reserves, where we engaged with all partners who had indicated an interest, which is Kikopiri, Te Korahi and Moipoko.
Do we have any correspondence regarding the terms of the lease from any parties?
And from the iwi partners.
Right, I'm not going to ask any more questions. I don't think that we actually can answer me. I will wait till this table move to the next stage of making a decision and I'll speak to the issue then. Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Jennings.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just following on from the line of questions from Councillor Tamiana, can I just get confirmation? Is it your advice through the report that all iwi hapu have had an opportunity through the current process to share their views?
Thank you, Councillor Jennings. Through your worship, yes, they are through specifically Ngāti Kikupiri, Ngāti Tūkorohi and Muapuku have directly been approached at least twice in the submission period relating to this reclassification and licence to occupy. Prior to that, they were engaged in their thoughts ahead of coming to this table to brief on the matter. You'll recall that we tried to have a session with them with Paul Beverley following one of the council meetings. However, there was no attendance at those hui.
Sorry, just let the Chief Executive speak first.
Yeah, apologies, Mayor Bernie. Just with your permission, I've just referred to an email. If I can answer the earlier question from Councillor Tamihana. I can't see anything in the only piece of correspondence we've had recently, which was from Ngāti Kikupiri about tenure of lease. There is a reference about, while not opposing the proposal, and this is pre-notification around licence to occupy, it does still hold concerns that commercial leasing may, in other and future cases, prioritise private interests over public and hapu rights, which is obviously a concern that councillors also raised pre-notification that we sought to address in how we framed the licence to occupy.
Can someone just explain for me the difference between a lease and a licence to occupy?
Thank you, Mayor Bernie. I'll give it a shot. My understanding with the licence to occupy is similar in some ways to a lease. However, with a lease, there's also, I think it's called a subdivision clause, which is another process that we would have to go through in order for Grenadier to, occupy the land and start their development. So a licence to occupy, while similar in some respects, is probably a less legislative process for us to get to where the developer is wanting to get to.
Thank you. Councillor Jennings, another question?
Yeah, just one question. Mr. Harvey, at paragraph 19 of the revised report that was sent out, you say officers understand that Grenadier Limited have MOUs in place. Can you just, to be really, really clear, what is the basis for your understanding? Is it from discussions? Have you cited something? Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Jennings, through your worship. That was as part of their presentation to councillors when they came and spoke to us, and is featured in some of the attachments that have gone from Grenadier when we've been having previous conversations.
Thank you, Brent. So the intention is to take these recommendations separately. We have recommendation C that Council resolves to reclassify the Manawatū Road West Esplanade Reserve as a local purpose recreation reserve. So moved by Councillor Brannigan, seconded by Councillor Jennings. Now open for discussion or debate. Councillor Brannigan.
Yeah, thanks, Your Bishop. I'll speak to briefly. This matter has been well traversed by this council over a long period of time. All aspects of it, right from the start when it was first brought to this table, have been worked through in meetings, workshops, and a lot of the concerns, I think, from a lot of the councillors, I think, have been well addressed by all the parties, including our officers. And while I understand some sensitivities around it, and I've certainly been satisfied that those sensitivities from our aspect, the things that are in our control, have been well traversed and well covered, and the opportunities to speak to and work with and consult with all the parties that the main affected parties and the wider public have been conducted normal, efficient, sufficient council processes to ensure that those the information that we're seeking from people has been able to be provided should they wish. I look at the opportunities, and let's get down to it. That this item today is about that strip of land, that small strip of land on the coastal environment, and nothing more than that. So it's building that and allowing that bit of land to be going into the wider project. But if I look at the opportunities that this project will bring, and this facility will bring to this district in many, many ways, without delving down into each one of those, to me it's an exciting opportunity. I think I've been impressed by the information we've had from the applicant to the Grenadier in terms of how they're going to conduct themselves around those cultural sensitivities and land sensitivities, etc. And I've been well satisfied that this is a great opportunity for our district, and will help once again put our district on the map and create opportunities for the district that without it would certainly go somewhere else in the country, and I'm sure it would be taken and grabbed with glee. So all in all, despite all of the challenges around this, I think it's been a great outcome, a good outcome, and support the recommendations of this matter.
Councillor Tamihana.
So no one wants to speak today. Great. Well, first of all, I believe the matter is a significant matter, even though we note it as not being significant. And I also want to thank our public speaker, Viv Bold, for raising your concerns and that it is a significant matter, because there are many out there that believe it is. I want to remind the table of the significance of the area, the pristine environment that's out there, and the limited access that has actually enabled that area to maintain and be what it is today. And that today's decision is actually about opening that exact pristine environment up now to an exclusive group, while citing a public access as the offset. Today, I have no options. Today, I've been presented with 0 options. I either comply and give the applicant what they want, or the other 2 options are I be taken to court. I don't have an option today. I don't know whose fault that is, but the reality is I've been cornered. When you compare this area to other matters this council are dealing with, we can't provide an access at Waikawa because people are afraid of the environmental issues there. We have issues going on at our entrances at Waitarere. Hamatangi this morning was raised, some serious issues of access out there. Hokio, we have issues of access and legal access. Yet here we are, looking to open up an exclusive area for an exclusive group of a pristine environment. I've mentioned the Environment Court ruling. I want to acknowledge Ngāti Tū Kōrehe for what they believe in protecting their wāhi tapu, tero whitu, regardless of the outcome of the Environment Court. I also want to acknowledge the other iwi and hapu that have been a part of this process that maybe felt overwhelmed by actually what we were engaging them around, because they've all told me it's a significant matter. In our options at D, the third option says environmental and cultural protections. Yet I have nothing attached to this report.
We are doing C only at this stage. We'll talk to D when we get there.
But I'm just talking to the actual thing. So I'm saying in D, you've got it in there, but I don't have anything to reflect on what a cultural protection is attached to this report. The reason I raised the MOUs is perhaps there are some of those protections in that private MOU between those parties and Grenadier, but I'm not privy to it, so therefore I can't see what those protections are when we've been taken to court because of cultural misconduct. So I can't see where this information has been provided to me and to our public. Right now, we're in a political climate nightmare. Māori feel attacked. Māori rights are under dispute. Our treaties under dispute. We have maka. We have division in our community and amongst our people. We have treaty processes that are unconducted and incomplete. Yet this council continue to pursue what they want to pursue, putting those matters aside, those significant matters aside that affect our Māori community every day and will do in the future. I'm glad that Mayor Bernie raised the difference between a licence and a lease, but I still don't have enough clarity in this report. That should be well explained in this report before it's adopted. This report will eventually go to public. They need to understand every part of this arrangement and what they mean. Opening up for private ownership, commercial operations in a reservation area is inappropriate if you are not going to be forthcoming with that information at the very start of this process. The term is inappropriate. Absolutely inappropriate. It feels like I've gone back 180 years and we're starting 100-year peppercorn leases again. It is insulting, it is disrespectful, and no one should have a right to take an exclusive area of a coastal reserve land off public for 100 years. I have asked today, have you received information about terms? This council has. And that information is not forthcoming today. I stood here myself as an elected member and said I did not support the term. The term is wrong. There should be no term until it's agreed by those parties together and presented back to this council. I don't know what the climate looks like in 45 years or 100 years, but what I know is it disassociates people from their whenua because we're locking it in. I do not believe in a right of renewal either. Around a reserve and around an area of such significance, it needs to be reconsulted on at the end of the licence period, publicly. And it should be aligned with whatever legislation is valid at the time. Treaty settlements may be done by that time. Iwi may actually be in a position to make better decisions on the use of the land and the attached lands. I've been dismissed here already around MACA processes being cited that this land doesn't include MACA. No, it doesn't, but you become the neighbour. You become the neighbour, and we become affected parties as Māori. I personally see value in the project. I personally endorse the applicants coming here and bringing such a significant opportunity to our district. But I feel they've missed the boat. I feel that it has not been genuine throughout this process, because if it was genuine engagement, we would see it in this report today to be able to adopt. And it's not here. It's hypothetical. So my opinion today, depending on the appetite of the table and where this discussion goes, is I won't be supporting this today in its current form. I want lots more information attached to this report, real information, with real endorsement, with real genuine outcomes, supported by all those parties, including those that were in drag through court processes, so that this table can have all the information before them to make a considered factual decision, not appease a group that want to take me to court because I am not going to give them what they want. Kia ora.
Deputy Mayor Al.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, look, I need to respond to a number of points made by Councillor Tamihana. It is quite usual for reports not to include every attachment that is relevant to that report. To do so would be to create a huge paper wall. There is, however, always the right of any councillor to signal before the meeting if they would like those attachments to be included. And Councillor Tamihana is quite right. This is very much in the public interest. It's very much about transparency. But the opportunity was there for Councillor Tamihana, as it is for all of us, to ask that that documentation be included if they deem it to be appropriate. The second thing that I want to acknowledge is, or to challenge, is that Councillor Tamihana has said that this is about access to an exclusive group. And later on he used the words that it disassociates people from their whenua. Clearly there is. Now, we can judge whether or not it's adequate. I personally think it is, but it is absolutely untrue to say it's about exclusive access, because part of the conditions guarantee that at their own expense, Grenadier will provide public access through that piece of land and they will maintain it. It also identifies that they have obligations to look at the cultural and environmental significance through the MOU process, which also has been identified by Brent. I also...
Yeah, point of order.
My point of order isn't about access to a walkway that this guy...
Sorry, you must specify what your point of order is.
My point of order is in regards to the access.
No. So is it what is actually your specific in terms of the point of order? What is? It's not about whether you disagree with Deputy Mayor Allen. It's what is the point of
my point of order is access to whenua. Wasn't talking about an access way.
So yeah,
it's talking about coastal reservation public land, not the walkway they want to fund.
By Deputy Mayor Allen. Okay, Deputy Mayor Allen, do you wish to respond to that?
Well, to me, that's not a point of order. It's a matter for debate. So I think that is an inappropriate point of order. But it's your decision whether you wish to now rule in favour of the point of order or not. I put that to you.
I take that your explanation and agree with you in terms of standing orders. That is correct. So you may continue. Thank you. The point of order is not considered.
Thank you. And look, the other thing to press on with, and look, this is a robust debate, and let's all be upfront about it, is that Councillor Tamihana also identified that iwi told him that this was a significant issue. Now, again, for that to be on the table right now, when our consultation process, which has been directly to connect with iwi, tells us that that is not the case, leaves me feeling very challenged about what is actually going on. The other thing too, and I feel very sad about this, is when Councillor Tamihana said that our count, he talked about the wider national disharmony at the moment and how it feels, for Māori to be in the position that they are. I absolutely respect that. I feel that anger and I feel that hurt, but what I did find challenging was his statement that our council is contributing to that. Now, Councillor Tamihana will have genuine reasons for what he said, but I need to say that I feel it is inappropriate that our council is actually really working hard at a local level to identify with our hapu iwi and to try to have robust and strong relationships. And I certainly don't want to be connected with the wider national issue caused by the current government. So I just make those points, Mr. Mayor, and I finish by saying where I stand on the substantive issue. And that's to say, for me, this is a win-win. This is about a magnificent project that cannot really succeed without that strip of land. We were given the presentation by Grenadier, and without that strip of land, it could not go ahead. But I call it a win-win because along with that project being able to go ahead, we will now be able to enable public also to have access through that piece of land. So to me, I fully support recommendation C, and when D comes up, I will be supporting that also.
Thank you. Councillor Jennings.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just make a couple of comments. Councillor Brannigan sort of hit the nail on the head for me when he talked about opportunity. This is an opportunity for the community, and this topic has been well traversed. We've had a number of briefings, number of workshops. We obviously had a council meeting where we put out this proposal and outlined fully the proposed course of action, and we all got an opportunity to articulate why we were in support or against that proposal. And my assessment was that if council got that proposal wrong, we would have heard that through the submission process. But the lack of opposition, the lack of submissions against the proposal suggests to me that there isn't the level of significance or opposition to this project that is being suggested by some. And finally, I did want to just cover off 2 points. I think that while there might be genuine personal dissatisfaction with the level of information, I have been absolutely satisfied with the level of information that's been provided through reports, through those briefings, through the workshops, the direct opportunity to talk to council's legal advisor. I feel we have had a huge amount of information that has helped us arrive not only at the proposal, but to this point as well. Finally, just to cover off the criticism of the lease period, I think it is really naive and devoid of commercial reality to suggest that a lease term should be less than what is being proposed. Who in their right mind would invest the sum of money that is being proposed to be invested here without a level of certainty? Members of the public wouldn't do it, so why would they expect this project to do the same? Without the certainty and indication of tenure, it makes absolutely no commercial sense for someone to invest the sums of money that are being talked about, let alone even a smaller amount. So I just think that, that the commentary on lease periods is devoid of that commercial reality. So I will be supporting both this and subject to any further debate. I am in support of this proceeding.
Barker.
I think there's actually at least two things going on here. One, for me anyway, I'll deal with this as simply as I can, is that whether or not iwi are satisfied as to the initiation of this project. And then secondly, whether us, you, anyone, any member of the public, think this is a great idea, generally speaking, in terms of how they sit on the environment or access or what. But I think it's important to not confuse the two issues, that I see anyway. So I'm reasonably confident that all iwi and Grenadier will make sure of this, will be satisfied as to the T's and C's of whatever MOUs they have with that company. So for me, that kind of takes that out of it. Then it just comes down to whether or not this is a good idea. It's just simple. And, if I leave that one aside, then actually I think it's on balance a good idea. It's a good thing for our district. So I'll be supporting it.
Councillor Grosser.
My understanding of the use of MOU is Memorandum of Understanding, and to this point in time I've never heard of a Memorandum of Understanding existing if parties did not agree or align with what they're agreeing to. And I really do double down on the points. I'm satisfied that our process to this point has been sound through our face-to-face workshops, the opportunity to hear from Grenadier about this particular project, the number of opportunity iwi have been given to put their view forward, and even right up to today had the ability to be here and use public participation to, if they did not feel that they aligned or agreed with what is being proposed, to be able to tell us that they support the views of Justin, Councillor Tamihana. the MOU is in place, and for me, that's a signal of a significant level of support for the project. We've addressed concerns regarding the exclusive use of the lands by referring to the licence to occupy. We've debated, and not quite debated, but we've discussed the term lease in previous workshops in relation to what we feel comfortable about. There are adequate protections that will exist within the MOU to ensure that those key things are met. The development is significant. It is significant for the entirety of our district in terms of the ability for not only the construction and the cost of construction, but for the sustainable, ongoing, year after year benefit from the people that build the racecourse, to the people that maintain the racecourse, to the people that are going to cater for the, golf course. You'd like a racecourse, wouldn't you? We're not talking about golf, for the golf course. So, to the boys that are going to collect $1 for every golf ball that they find on that golf course, there's going to be economic benefit that derives from this project proceeding. And with a lack of any evidence to suggest there is significant opposition as such, I'm comfortable that our process to this point has been sound and diligent, and we need to proceed.
Councillor Olsen.
Look, I'll be pretty quick here. I think it's all pretty much been said already, but I'd just like to acknowledge the team, and I think that the work that they've done actually presenting the detail throughout this process. We've obviously had some workshops, and we've been through a council meeting to highlight this topic. For me, economic benefit for the community is obviously paramount, and I think that's what we will get from this particular project. So I'm very supportive of it, and we'll be supporting it.
Councillor Boyle.
Hi there. I'd like to put a procedural motion, understanding order 25.2D, that the matter lay on the table until we have received written feedback from all iwi partners on the matter.
Yes. Okay. So we now have a procedural motion that that recommendation D remains on the table until that's before we've even dealt with C. Yeah. Did you say C and D or just D?
Good question. I think it probably applies to C and D.
Well, point of order. I don't think that Councillor Boyle can make a preemptive procedural motion in relation to a motion that hasn't even been put. So I think the procedural motion would have to be contained to the motion that is on the table, to lay on the table. I don't think that.
By including C and D in his procedural motion, I think he
D hasn't even been put. So it would essentially, the procedural motion would have to be framed as if the entire matter would need to be
My advice, Councillor Boyle, is that if you wish to lay the whole matter on the table, then that is the procedural motion that you need to put now.
I would prefer to do that because there is no point in us allowing C to pass and then doing a procedural motion on D. There would be no point in doing C if we didn't do D. So yes, I would prefer to put a procedural motion that somehow preempts both. I would like to put on the, can we put it at the level above? Can we put it on whatever agenda item number this is, 7.3?
So, right, so the procedural motion is to lay the matter on the table until such time as further consultation is done. Is that what you were seeking?
Yes, until we have received and viewed written feedback from all EV partners on the matter.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Tamihana. We'll call for division on this. We'll start with Deputy Mayor Allen.
Against.
Councillor Barker.
Against.
Councillor Tamihana. Councillor Olsen.
Against.
Noting that Councillor Horowhenua has declared a conflict. Councillor Young.
Against.
Councillor Grimstone.
Against.
Councillor Jennings.
Against.
Councillor Brannigan.
Against.
And I am also against. So the motion is lost. So the matter stays on the table, and we now continue the debate around recommendation C. Does anyone wish to speak that hasn't so far? In that case, Councillor Brannigan, you have a right of reply if you wish.
Yeah, I've thought about it. I think it's been well traversed by all of us. The views are pretty clear in the table, so I'm going to leave it there and put it to the vote.
All right, again, we will call for division on this. Sorry, Councillor Boyle, I didn't ask for your vote previously, but I assume as mover of the...
It was 4, yes.
Yes, thank you. So I'll start with you this time. So recommendation C, that Council resolves to reclassify the Manawatū Road West Esplanade Reserve as a local purpose recreation reserve. For or against?
Against, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brannigan? For. Councillor Jennings? For. Councillor Grimstone? For. Councillor Young? For. Councillor Olsen? For. Councillor Tamihana?
Carl.
Councillor Barker? For. Deputy Mayor Allen? For. And I will also vote for. So the motion is carried. Thank you. So we now move to recommendation D, that Council resolves to grant a licence to Grenadier Limited for the establishment of a golf course based on the following key items. The licence term being 99 years, being 33 plus 33 plus 33. Public access, a defined public walkway connecting Manawatū Road west to the beach to be developed and maintained by Grenadier Limited, and that environmental and cultural protections, conditions to safeguard environmental and cultural values. We've got E, but we'll just do that after following that. So moved again by Councillor Brannigan, seconded by Councillor Jennings. Any further discussion or debate?
Yep.
Councillor Tamihana.
I'd like to propose that we amend the licence term to 15 years. 15, no right of renewal.
So I assume you're requesting an amendment to that recommendation, that the licence term be 15 plus 15 plus 15, is that correct? So is there a seconder for that recommendation amendment?
I'm happy to second.
Pardon?
Happy to second.
Councillor Boyle, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Boyle. So, all right, so the amendment is as previous, except the licence term is now 45 years, being 15 plus 15 plus 15. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Tamihana? Sorry, we're going to vote on that amendment. Do you wish to speak to it? Okay. Councillor Jennings.
Well, given that the mover of the amendment is not even going to speak to the substance of it, I'm going to vote against it clearly because there's been no reason given for the basis for the amendment.
Already spoken to it earlier.
It's not. So the point of order relates to what?
He just said that I didn't speak to it.
Well, you haven't spoken to it. Yeah, so the point of order is considered null. Councillor Boyle, do you wish to speak to this?
Yeah, happy to speak to it briefly. I'm fairly torn on this issue. I can see a whole lot of benefits that have been presented to this licence to occupy, one's to the environment and to the community, but I can't knowingly support a 99-year lease. The implications of that are too vast for our council to be signing up for. A 45-year lease seems more than reasonable. There is clearly sufficient time there for Grenadier to make whatever profit they need to make this a viable option. And I'm certain if they fulfill on their terms, we'd be more than happy to reconsider it after those 45 years. The world may be a very different place then. Sea levels may be a whole lot higher. It'll be interesting, that's for sure. But yeah, I think it's logical and reasonable that we opt for a 45-year lease in our council decision. And if this isn't appropriate for them, I'm sure they'll come back to us and we can reconsider that later. Why not try our hand at 45 years? It seems reasonable.
Councillor Barker.
I find that proposal strangely attractive. It kind of, in a way, to me, it seems like we are giving the developer what they want, but we're also preserving, in a way, options, and perhaps it's also an incentive for them to actually be a good developer. Whether, it's, and I mean, I know the argument is, oh, well, what developer wants a 100-year lease? Well, in what book is it written that any developer that we're dealing with should get exactly what they want?
If you mirror on.
Look, I guess my concern about this is the sheer magnitude of the project. I don't think we can undervalue the amount of investment and work that will go into creating that golf course. It is a huge investment, and I think if we do believe in it, and our last, the way we voted last time suggests that we did, then we need to be realistic about what a commercial operation needs certainty around. And I worry about 15, 15, 15 as being inadequate for that. So for that reason, Mr Mayor, I will be opposing the amendment.
Thank you. Okay. So again, we'll call a division on this matter. So we're voting on the amendment, and the only amendment to recommendation D is the licence term now being 45 years. So, Councillor Young? For. Councillor Brimstone?
Against.
Councillor Jennings?
Against.
Councillor Brannigan?
Against.
I am against. Deputy Mayor Allen?
Against.
Councillor Barker?
Yeah, I'm for.
Councillor Tamihana? Councillor Olsen?
Against.
Councillor Boyle?
For.
So that's 6 votes against, 4 in favour. So it's lost.
So it was 6 votes against, 4 in favour, so the matter is lost. We now go back to the substantive recommendation. And we have a mover and a seconder for that. So again, it's back on the table. Councillor Tamihana.
Okay, since nobody heard us there, we'll go to the public access one. Amendment to that I'd like to see in there is that they accept all liability on our public access way.
Sorry, could you just word the amendment how it should read?
Well, right now it's saying that a defined public walking way connected by Muhunua West Road to the beach to be developed and maintained by Grenadier Limited. I think the addition to that should be, and that they accept and assume liability for that public and public access.
Just seeking clarification, what sort of liability are you talking?
Any liability. If somebody gets hurt out there accessing that beach, we are currently responsible, but these people are taking over management of that walkway and paying to maintain it. So who's liable? Who's liable for that area now?
So right, it's a debate. Right. Yeah. Is there a question first? Yes. So, well, the question is framed. Can I ask a question then? If it's not their land, who is liable for responsibility for anything that happens on it? Because they don't own the land; it is owned by council own the land. Is that correct, or is it it's reserved land?
So through you, Your Worship, under the Health and Safety at Work Act, both organisations would be considered to have PCBU status, so there would be some form of shared liability if it was it all depends on, I suppose, the hypotheticals of what could happen. Just checking that Brent doesn't want to make any further comment.
Councillor Jennings?
Can I just ask a clarification question
Yes.
to the Chief Executive? Based on what you've told us, is that in theory, under the Health and Safety at Work Act, both Council and Grenadier Limited could have theoretical liability under HASWA. Are you aware of guidance issued by WorkSafe that details their approach to recreational activities occurring on a site, and that liability effectively that they are focused on applies only when recreational activities are happening in essentially in a work context where there are work activities happening?
Correct.
So the amendment moved by Councillor Tamihana is that we add liability responsibilities.
And we add the words, and that Grenadier accept public liability.
Is that what you? Thank you. Is there a seconder for that amendment? Sorry, I can't.
Sorry, you've only raised public liability with me, but I don't actually know what other ones could potentially be out there that the CEO may need to consider after this meeting.
Well, that's a. So there is a further recommendation to follow, which gives delegated authority to the Chief Executive to negotiate and finalise the term of the licence to occupy, which may well include discussions about liability, I would imagine now.
Do you want me to comment?
You can.
Maybe if I could comment that a generic licence to occupy template, but certainly the draft that we've been working on includes clauses around the licensee keeping the council indemnified for any actions, claims, losses and expenses. It protects us around neglect or carelessness, any accident or damage to the property, but also that the licensee at their expense has to keep current and effective public liability. So probably the assurance piece I'm trying to give you is that those matters have been considered, and we can continue to consider it through our legal advisor, however elected members wish to frame that in the resolutions today.
So, yes, no, I'm just seeking that, but I'm just making sure we've got the amendment.
I think it's
right, correct. Is there a seconder for Councillor Tamihana's amendment? There being none, the amendment fails. So again, we move back to the substantive recommendation D. And again, Councillor Tamihana.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep going. I'm glad this is all public and open and being recorded. So I can't accept the third sentence either, because what's a cultural protection? So can you help me through the CE to put some words that actually protect cultural protections? What is it you're protecting?
So I can speak to some of the detail around the environmental and cultural outcomes that through the consenting process, Grenadier Limited have committed through its various MOUs. So I can speak to that, but you're looking for me to help draft a resolution that speaks to that. You could add the words onto it as per the resource consenting conditions.
Yeah, I like that, and I also think there needs to be Manawatū added to that.
So it could read as per the consenting conditions and MOUs the developer is maintaining with Manawatū.
I'll just ask Grayson to read that amendment.
So the amendment is to add the words after cultural values as per the consenting conditions and the MOU the developer has developed with iwi partners.
Thank you. So is there a seconder for that amendment?
I'm happy to second that.
Councillor Boyle has seconded that. Do you wish to speak to it, Councillor Tamihana?
Can you reread the motion, please?
Yeah, so the motion is to add the words after cultural values as per the consenting conditions and the MOU the developer has agreed with iwi partners.
No, that's with Manawatū.
With Manawatū.
With Manawatū. Sorry, my apologies. So it reads, add the words after cultural values as per the consenting conditions and the MOU as developed, as agreed with Manawatū. Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Can I ask a question of the Chief Executive?
Certainly.
Chief Executive, is it Council's role to determine who has Manawatū status and who doesn't?
No. But what we need to acknowledge is that this project has been through a number of consenting processes where there has been a challenge around the overlapping layers of interest, and the most recent High Court decision, which reassured Council of its processes, identified Ngāti Kikopiri as having Manawatū status. We know that within this project, Grenadier Limited have entered an MOU with Ngāti Kikopiri and Waipoko.
Councillor Tamihana, you wish to speak to the amendment?
Really briefly, just to say, I think, again, there's been plenty of discussion around it, but I need to ensure as the Māori representative in my role that those cultural considerations are locked in place so that they have assurance that they can never be overlooked in this process or in this development.
Councillor Boyle, you wish to speak to it?
Yes, as far as I understand it, this doesn't actually add anything super special that the developer aren't already obligated to do or intending to do. It merely enshrines it in our decision here. I supported this motion as I think it provides some assurances to Councillor Tamihana, and I'm happy to try and help provide as many assurances as I can throughout this process. I don't think this is a very small thing. I can't see how anyone would object to it, as it is merely a few lines that affirm what is already going to happen. The only objection is that it's taking our time in this meeting. So let's roll on and just make it happen. Cheers.
Thank you, Councillor Boyle. Councillor Brannigan.
Further question to Chief Executive, please. Would the addition of these words, in your view, would go in any way to address the concerns that Councillor Tamahana has voiced on bullet point 3 of item D, recommendation D?
Look, I think that the reality is the resource consenting conditions are binding, so the developer is required to give effect to them. To answer your question, I think it gives the community and our iwi partners reassurance that when council has made this decision, they have made it in the context of acknowledging those consent conditions and the MOUs, which do provide some detail around the ecological and the cultural safeguards that the developer have committed to. And I'm not concerned that it in any way impacts the negotiation process around a licence to occupy, and I don't think the developer should be either.
So just to further that, Your Worship, is this, I'm trying to think back now, there's so many chops and changes, is this just an addition to C, or is this a further amendment we're talking on?
So this is an amendment to recommendation D, yes. Yes. The last point. Yes.
Okay. In that case, happy to support it.
Thank you. Councillor Grimstone.
Sorry, I've just got a clarifying question for the CE, if possible. Just in relation to what would the consequence be if the developer did not meet the binding requirements of that resource consent, and how would that be reflected in the licence to occupy agreement?
So first and foremost, that's a matter for the regulator, which in some instances is the regional council and in some instances is the territorial authority. It's very, very important that we separate our responsibility as a regulator from our responsibilities as a landowner here. In terms of the impact for the licence to occupy, it would mean that during the renewal period, if council had concerns about giving effect to what had been assured in the licence to occupy, that would be a basis for conversations about whether parties were meeting the terms of the licence to occupy. But ultimately, it is a compliance responsibility for regulators.
No one else wishing to speak. Councillor Tamihana, you've got a right to reply if you wish.
No, I am grateful to hear some of the comments made around the table, but I do remind us, as I said it in my opening statement around this, is I don't have a decision to make today. I haven't been presented options.
All right, so again, we'll call for division on this. We'll start with Councillor Olsen. For. Councillor Tamihana.
Aye.
Councillor Barker. For. Deputy Mayor Allen. For. I will vote for. Councillor Brannigan. For. Councillor Jennings. For. Councillor Grimstone. For. Councillor Young. For. Councillor Boyle.
For.
Thank you. The motion is carried. All right, now moving to the last recommendation in this item. Sorry. Oh, I thought the amendment would have taken over the substantive motion. All right. So we still have to go back to the substantive motion because we have it is on the table and has been moved and seconded. Thank you. Okay. So in that case, we'll just have a show of hands this time. All those in favour of that motion or against that motion. So
against.
Oh, so confusion here. So you've supported a recommendation that we add words to the last sentence of recommendation D, right? So if you go now and support the recommendation D as it was laying on the table. No?
Yeah, so now the vote is on the motion as amended.
So we've just moved the amendment. Right. So that is the substantive motion. Okay. Sorry for the confusion. My apologies.
Sorry, just for point of clarity, and we're talking about the third bullet point. No, the whole thing.
The whole thing now, yes.
So when they voting on that,
Right.
additional bits.
Yes, right.
Bring it up, Gracie.
I see.
So just for clarification, we're voting on recommendation D with those extra words placed after cultural values. Right.
Yeah, they are there.
So we need a mover and seconder for this. It's already
moved and seconded.
Already moved and seconded. Okay. Can I have a show of hands then? All those who are for.
Can we have division on this one too?
Division on this one too. Okay. Councillor Boyle, you'd like to start?
I'll vote against.
Deputy Mayor Allen.
For.
Councillor Barker.
For.
Councillor Tamihana.
Against.
Councillor Olsen. For. Councillor Young.
For.
Councillor Grimstone.
For.
Councillor Jennings.
For.
Councillor Brannigan.
For.
And I will vote for. Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, so now we move to recommendation E, that Council delegates authority to the Chief Executive to negotiate and finalise the term of the licence to occupy, including the fee as guided by the valuation. You're moving, Councillor Young. Seconded by Councillor Brannigan. Any further debate? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against?
Yeah,
Sorry, Councillor Boyle. Against?
Yeah, I was hoping to have for an amendment that required it to be brought back to the council table. But,
So the motion is carried. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I just ask? I think what Councillor Boyle raised at the end there was actually appropriate because not all of us actually agree with it. So he asked whether this could be brought back to the table by the CEO when the lease arrangement is closer to the end, I'm guessing is what he was saying. What's wrong with that?
The vote had been already taken by the time that Councillor Boyle raised that. So we've delegated authority to the Chief Executive. No, we have. The table has. Well, the rest of the table has, yes. Well, yeah, we know you voted against it, but the rest of the table has supported that. So we're now moving on to 7.2, which is the fee for local water service connections and disconnections. And just move recommendation A that the report for local water service connections and disconnections be received and noted. And we have recommendation B that the council confirm the inclusion of the fee for local water service connections and disconnections in the fees and charges for 2025/26. Move for those two recommendations, please. Deputy Mayor Allen, seconded Councillor Jennings. Any discussion or debate? Councillors have been advised of these previously and are well aware of it, so just basically process-driven recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Sorry, Councillor Tamihana, was that against? Right, okay, so noted. The motion is passed. Thank you. 7.3, the Shannon Community Development Trust, the appointment of a trustee. The recommendation A and B, the report be received and recognised as not significant. Moved by Deputy Mayor Allen, seconded by Councillor Barker. We have Mark and Brent coming to the table. Welcome.
Thank you, Wisher. Happy to take the report as read.
Any questions for officers. Councillor Tamihana.
Yeah, I just note the people on the trust currently, and grateful to see Mr. Disney here today putting his name forward to the group. I have to ask, I don't see Māori representation in this group at all. Has that been, have we engaged around that?
Through you, Worship. There wasn't any direct engagement in terms of this particular appointment, in terms of the current makeup. The current chair, Jodie Woodmas, whakapapa back to wakawehi marae, also known as Paitu marae in Shannon. So we have taken that into consideration.
Thank you.
Looks like there's no questions. Gentlemen, thank you. Right, the recommendation is that the Horowhenua District Council appoints James Disney as a trustee of the Shannon Community Development Trust. Have a mover and seconder, please. Moved by Councillor Olsen, seconded by Deputy Mayor Allen. Any comments you wish to make? Deputy Mayor Allen.
No, just very briefly, just to note for the record that there was only one expression of interest, James himself, that the trustees support his nomination and that the CV, which is public information there, is impressive, and I fully support the addition of him to the trust.
Councillor Olsen, do you wish to... Oh, sorry, Councillor Tamihana first.
Yeah, I spent a bit of time in Shannon. Mr. Disney, it's really a pleasure to see you here today. I too just wanted to support your appointment to the trust today, and just say that I've actually enjoyed your open, honest conversations that we've had, and your background. I think the skills you offer are quite wonderful, to be honest, to the group. And I also know that you've openly shared with me around your background in South Africa and some of your thinkings around that. So I think it brings some balance to the community, but I'm quite mindful of those fruitful conversations we've had in the past. So I think you'll be a real benefit and asset to the group. Kia ora.
Councillor Olsen, do you wish to add anything?
No, look, it's probably already been said. It was obviously open to the public and advertised through the community, and as has been pointed out, there was only one application which for James, which is great.
The case, I've put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, James, for your volunteering and putting your hand up to support our community. We really appreciate it, and we wish you well in your future. Thank you. All right, moving to 8.1, the Horowhenua District Council Organisation Performance Report for February 2025. Move recommendation A that the report be received and noted. Moved by Deputy Mayor Allen, seconded by Councillor Jennings. Are there any questions? Oh, well, let's be received and noted first. So all those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Chief Executive, do you wish to introduce anything?
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, councillors, probably just to acknowledge that this is for the reporting period of essentially December and January, and you'll note there a significant amount of mahi happening with a real focus on our top 12 priorities in particular. I wonder whether we take questions related to the report, and then I might hand over to Jacinta just to speak at a high level to our financial results, and then we could take questions on financial performance. So maybe just in the first instance, Your Worship, if there's any questions about content, outcomes related to our mahi.
I was going to suggest that, and also service performance indicators too, that if we leave those till after. So are there any questions or comments around the organisation performance report itself? Deputy Mayor Allen.
But just a question around the Foxton Beach stormwater consent. It was hoped to meet with local hapu late last month. Did this happen? This is in terms of trying to keep the momentum going in the project.
Through Your Worship, yes, yes, that hui did happen, and I understand that it was a really constructive conversation.
Councillor Boyle.
Two quick questions. Page 49 of the agenda, page 19 of the report, customer and regulatory. We're forecasting lower revenue for dog regos and parking. Can we have some more context on that, given that we've increased the fees for both? Have we hit the opposite of a sweet spot, that more people are willing to take the risk and not register dogs or not pay for parking? If someone's willing to comment on that.
Yes. Apologies, Councillor Boyle, that was a little bit challenging to hear, but I think your question was around the lower than budgeted income around dog registrations and parking income. And I'll just hand over to Brent, who will be able to, I know, speak about parking income because we talked about it at ELT yesterday, and hopefully talk about dog regos.
Thank you, Monique, through your worship. Yesterday we have noted the lower income through our parking meters and variety of, we are looking at a bit of an investigation as to why that is. There's a couple of theories, one being there's less cars actually parking in the main street at the moment, but also there is less people putting money in the meters. So we are doing some work around the times our wardens are going out to make sure we are checking and ticketing as appropriate. Of note, the tickets for registrations and warrant fitnesses are slightly ahead of budget, but it is noted that the parking meters is lower.
Yeah, and Councillor Boyle will take it away as an action to come back to councillors with more information about the dog fee registration revenue, because my understanding is that the amount of dogs that have been registered is more than this time last year. So we'll come back and provide clarification.
Cool. Second question, if you're willing to take it now.
Please.
Page 55 of the agenda, 25 of the report. Solid waste food composting trial. I see note that there's talk of a decision point being added, despite this decision already being made in the LTP, based on the new government advice that this is no longer mandatory by 2029. We're just doing a trial. I don't think that's relevant. Does this need to come back to council, or can this just proceed?
Yeah, through your worship, and a really good question, Councillor Boyle. I think that there's been a concern from officers that as they've done the work to get ready for the composting trial, and there's like it looks exciting. The cost that we initially advised council of the composting trial during the long-term plan deliberations, it is going to cost us more. We can still deliver that within our waste minimisation, waste levy budget. I think the use of the word decision is probably overinflated. The intention is that next week we have a public workshop where we're updating council around solid waste matters, and it was just, we wanted to put it in front of council for you to kind of note the most recent advice from Ministry for the Environment, and if there was an allergic reaction that said, well, should we pause here, that we'd respond to that. But certainly my expectation from an operational perspective is that we should be implementing the mandate of council, which is as per the long-term plan resolution. So apologies for the confusion on that one.
Perfect, thank you.
We're only doing the report, we're not doing the SSPs and the
Not yet,
LP.
no.
Okay.
We'll get to those. Yeah.
Okay. I know. Well, my comment really was in regards to the report. I think it was really well written and put together, really informative. Same with your weekly words, Monica. I actually really enjoyed the way you delivered your message. So I think it's consistent with what you're presenting here. I'll speak to some of the other points in the report, but there's certainly a lot of highlights that have been put in there in the report and some great things that have happened around the district. But like Rogan, I think there are some things that I've got some concerns that I can raise in the SSP part. But other than that, I think the report's been really well compiled. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. Look, just referring to page 59 or page 89 of the order paper, the destination management strategy under the implementation of blueprint priorities headline. Just a question about the extent to which the local visitor tourist sector is connecting with council on this new strategy. Any updates on their willingness to connect and be involved?
Yeah, through your worship. Look, our destination management lead, supported by our strategic communications manager, has pulled together it's not a formal advisory group or anything. It's kind of a think tank to provide guidance and support around the implementation of our strategy. I know that they met prior to Christmas, and certainly some of those. So iwi partners were invited, but as were I suppose some of those prominent tourism or destination management businesses across the district, and yeah, there was good engagement. I think with all things, there's always various views on what council should be doing or what council shouldn't be doing, and we obviously have to balance that within our fiscal envelope. So yeah, promising engagement, and obviously we want to continue to take that group from strength to strength.
Sorry, just a question around the Foxton Pool in terms of the emptying and doing the lines again. That is still planned. Those dates aren't holidays or Easter or anything like that, are they?
Thank you, Your Worship. Look, it's been a really difficult to program this work, and it is crossover with 1 week of holidays on the back end of Easter. The point I would make, it's not a full facility closure. We're keeping the toddler pool and the spa pool open throughout. We think we can do the work with that. I guess there's no good time. So if we went into term time, it impacts our learn to swim program. If we go into holidays, it's difficult to manage. So the balance is kind of across the two.
And do we have any advice from the supplier of why this happened yet?
Thank you, Your Worship. They've been working with us right through. They haven't experienced this before. In the fix they're doing, they're actually doing a different methodology, I guess, where they're actually going to weld a vinyl onto the pool liner, so it won't be a paint product. So it should be a lot, it shouldn't occur again. It's a more robust, probably more expensive fix, but obviously they're covering it all.
Just further to that, Mayor Burney, we're really mindful of the impact of that on the community, and also juggling that it's at a similar but different time. We're also fixing the roof on Te Awaho Newstrom, and so in the coming days we should have finalised plans about timeframes for that work, and obviously the priority is around really clear and upfront communication with our community about the why and the who's paying for it, because of course that's an important message that people don't see, particularly for the pool, that ratepayers are having to pay twice. This falls on the contractor.
My other question related to the Levin landfill remediation. Are we expecting a report from that over the next little while, are we?
Next week, there's a council workshop on the broader solid waste activity.
Cool, thank you. Any further questions, clarifications? Councillor Olsen.
Yeah, just quickly, look, it's a great report, well written, as previously commented on. Just, I guess, just a small thing, that the housing action plan and like priorities. Obviously, there's been some central government changes around KO and that sort of development. And also note and acknowledge, I suppose, the Wayne Bishop Group and the Salvation Army and what they've done. Do you believe, or do you think, that there's still the appetite within the community to facilitate that housing action plan, sort of as previously, we sort of worked on it, if you like, because it's obviously quite a big thing for our wider community.
Through your worship, I suppose what I could defer to is that we did ask the community for feedback on it during the long-term plan, and I think when you talk through our community wellbeing networks, and some of you will be talking to these agencies and organisations more than I will be, they'll still be affirming that quality homes for whānau remains an issue, albeit our emergency housing list has, I think prior to Christmas there was no one in motel accommodation, but in our emergency housing list had decreased. I think there's two parts to this work. There's the work which is about broader community outcomes, and obviously you acknowledge the work of Wayne Bishop Group and Salvation Army. We do also have other chips, being Compassion Housing. We've got the Rokawa Housing Trust now as well. And so I think that particularly with the change in direction around climate order, there's potentially some real opportunities to think about more localised community outcomes with the government of the day. And then the second piece is about council recognising the role it plays in enabling housing outcomes. So I do think that the mahi still matters, and I'm hoping that we start to see some progress, particularly around some of those projects related to council's assets that you've previously given mandate to.
Thank you all. Jacinda.
Thanks, through you, Your Worship. What I'll do is I'll probably start with page 96, which is the dashboard side of the finances, and just talk through some of the key points. So feel free to jump in with questions at any point. Overall, we're tracking well as an organisation in terms of meeting our budget and where we can, looking to save. So at a high level view, we've given a signal there that from an operational perspective, we may be in a position to save between $200,000 and $300,000 for this year. So that's what we're targeting at as an organisation, and we think we can get there. Some of the reasons why that is what it is a couple of things. In the income space, we're lower, but that's mainly lower because we're getting less subsidies in the NZTA and the CIP space in terms of the timing of that. So from a capital perspective, when we're thinking about what we plan to spend in our capital budget, we're taking that into account. If we're receiving less income in, we're planning to spend less on the capital side so that we're not spending any more, needing any more borrowings on a overall perspective. Some good news in the regulatory space is that we are tracking ahead of schedule, and we may be in a position where we might be able to make, on a net perspective, an additional $700,000 in that space due to the additional consents that are coming in. So that's good news in that space. And some of the conversations that we've had are there that we would look to have a conversation with this table about in future are, if we are to save money in that regulatory space as a council table, you may choose to ring fence that and only use that for future regulatory activity should we have a downturn in the future. So that's an option that's available to this table that we'll continue to talk about in the future. You might ask the question of, well, if we're going to save a net sort of 200 to 300,000 and regulatory sitting at 700, then what's the difference between those two things? Well, the key difference between those is that interest continues to be a pressure area for us. And at this stage, even given where interest rates are and us taking advantage of the interest rates dropping, which we are doing and actively doing, is that it's still sitting approximately 350 to 400,000 over in terms of where that budget sits. So from a net perspective, it's tracking well overall, but interest is a pressure for us. We've got some lower income, which we will offset by capital, but the regulatory is sort of the shining light for us at this stage in terms of helping to deliver us some level of a surplus. Some areas that are an area to flag in terms of risk at this stage is our debtors area. And you'll see in the report a particular mention is rates, up to sort of 25 to 30% increase we've seen in the level of both penalties and outstanding rates debt carried over from previous years and not paid in future invoices that we've sent out. So that significant rates increase and the current economy is, as you all know, extremely challenging for the people in our district, and is something that we're acutely aware of. And the teams have had some challenging times over the last few months, helping people to manage through those times. We continue to do so, and we're continuing to work with people to try and get payment plans in place to make sure that they're able to get back on track. Just highlighting that where they do have payment plans in place and they're on direct debit at a level that's affordable to kind of get back on track within the next few years, we don't charge them penalties so that they have that opportunity to get back on track. So just to flag that's some of the things we do to help people to get things going again without being too punitive in terms of where they're sitting. As well, water debtors, there's a significant amount of old outstanding water debt, so we've got one member of staff that's dedicated to focus on that at the moment and to get that down. As well, in the debtors in terms of other debt or other outstanding payments that are there for us is in the RAC or the Risk and Assurance report. There is an increased focus on outstanding debtors. And we are starting for example, we've built up some good dashboards across the organization where we're looking at our top customers and within each business area, making sure that we're chasing that in new ways and more focused on it. So that will see an improvement over the next few months. But at this stage, isn't something that we're excited about in terms of what the picture looks like for now. In terms of the capital program, there isn't a high degree of information, level of detail in here about what that program is going to look like at the end of the year. The reason for that is that detailed work is happening right now. So we're doing detailed work where the whole business is doing detailed work on the forecast for this year and also what that looks like for the annual plan next year. So that work is happening between now and the end of February. And then we will be coming back to the capital project steering group and then also to the annual plan conversations with that revised program. But absolutely, in terms of this year and next year, there's no intention to ask for more borrowings. It's just a question of when that timing sets, given changing priorities in the capital space. Lastly, in terms of the risk and assurance, we've completed our first draft of a financial dashboard, which is a good step forward into a sort of a key snapshot of how the finances look. And we would look to include that as well in future council conversations as well as in the risk and assurance agenda. Happy to take any further questions.
My first question, Jacinda, is the dashboard. And it looks like the needle for capital expenditure has fallen over and is showing 0. That can't be correct, I assume.
Thank you, through your worship. I think that might be a bit of a design flow oversight. Yes.
My other question was around the capital grants being deferred in terms of how much does that impact our final year result? Or where are the compensations in terms of, you talked about not spending as much, but where is that in the capital expenditure space, or how does it impact our final result for the year?
Thanks. Yes, so through your worship, what that will look like is on the income statement that you'll see will look lower. So it will look like we've got less income, but one thing we've tried to make sure we're being more clear about is while the income might be lower, the capital spending will also be lower. So the net position or net borrowings that's needed will be nil. So we're making sure that while that might be lower, we're not spending that money if we don't have the income for it. And also another thing that we're doing in that borrowing space as well is making sure we're monitoring the debt-funded operating costs as well. So the likes of the district plan, any IT-related work that's debt-funded because it's for software, and making sure that that's included in that overall capital conversation as well, because it does have an impact on what that net debt picture looks like.
Thank you. Sorry. Councillor Jennings.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Jacinta. You preempted a number of questions I had, but there's just sort of three things I wanted to cover off, which is favourable professional services variance, NZTA funding, and water rates in the doubtful debt. So, starting with professional services, I'm assuming that the favourable professional services result there, the report talks about timing, but it feels like also that that's because we might be doing more in-house and using less consultants, and so that's translating into a positive operational saving. Is that correct?
Thanks, through your worship. Yes, that is correct. So we're across the organisation coming to a point where we're almost at a full complement. It's quite exciting as an organisation. When we had our staff hui this morning, I think we actually needed to order some more chairs to all fit in, which was an exciting place to be. And so we are, as an organisation, with that collaboration and with the staff being on board, there are absolutely instances where we're able to do that, where we can do it ourselves. We are doing that. Also, one other point to note in the professional services space as well is for our landfill provision and the work that's happening on the remediation of the landfill. Some of that budget will sit in that professional services space, but will actually be spent against the provision budget as well. So some of that might show up as a bit of a saving, but some of it actually sits to then be spent against the provision as well. And then there is some timing as well.
Thank you. Just on the NZTA funding, so context for public, if anyone's listening, is we budgeted for a certain amount for local road or land transport. We didn't get as much money as we were expecting from NZTA, so that's showing as a negative variance in terms of operational spend and capital. But the question is, because our budget is a 3-year cycle, if a future, obviously we can't do much about it for this year in terms of how it appears in the financial reporting, but in terms of the upcoming annual plan, will that be fixed so that we kind of adjust those figures so that we don't have those continuing large variances?
Thanks, and through your worship, yes, absolutely. So when we, through this February period where we're looking at all the capital budgets, both for this year and next year, when we come to you for the capital projects and then for the annual plan adoption, you will see a reduced amount in that roading space and a reduced level of funding as well, so that we don't have the mismatch anymore that we have currently.
That's great news, thank you. And then just your final question was, you talked about the debtors, and in particular I wanted to focus on the water rates, because that did stand out. And there was a note in here but there is quite a significant budget for doubtful debt around water. And is that because a lot of the water debtors are quite historic disputes about water bills, and so we're either going to have to write some of that off, why the sort of quantum of doubtful debt?
Thanks, and through your worship, yes. So every last annual reporting period, what we did is the team had a look at every individual debt in that water space, and where there were a level of dispute or a level of uncertainty about the collectability of that debt, because of a dispute or because of something unusual in that particular balance or a leak that hadn't been actually worked through and figured out, then yes, that has been provided for. And what that means then is, going forward, our result for this year won't be impacted by that, because we have that provision already sitting there to offset any reduced collection.
All right, let's move on to the SSPs. Any questions for officers in regard to those? Councillor Tamihana.
Yeah, hi guys. Just some queries, I suppose. I noticed in SSP C13 around our parks and that we note that we have no complaints in there, but should we have been capturing some of that stuff that was going on around Donnelly and the cricket screen thing that's been going on, that's not captured in there at all, and it's quite a recent activity. I'll just make comments if that's right for you, Bernie. Aquatic numbers were great.
Sorry, do you want to have a response to that?
Well, just Lacey looks like she's got a warm done. Thank you for the question. Through you, Your Worship. The SSP tracks complaints around sports ground usage, so whether a sports ground is available to be used, and therefore the complaint around this cricket site screens don't meet that.
Thank you, that's interesting.
Yeah, and probably to add to that, so this is where SSPs, particularly when you're being audited through an annual report process, becomes a interesting process, Councillor Tamihana, because, for example, if we did capture those complaints around the cricket site screen, or, I know that there's other complaint at the moment around baseball, audit would want to see evidence of that, and they would then test that against the SSP, and they would say it's not about usage or accessibility, it's about the impact for that household. And so then they would flag to you during an audit process that we're not measuring the complaints as per the SSP. So this is where every little word in an SSP makes life less simple than we might like.
I appreciate that response, thank you. I did note CF1, just the aquatic numbers, and I just wanted to comment. I think that's a really outstanding job that's going on with our pools and the use. SD2 was around concern you raised that we may not be able to deliver on our waste management plan, citing that we may not be able to to fulfill what we need to receive that financial kickback. But what I wondered was, how do we, are there thoughts about how we are going to achieve that if we're not delivering there?
Yes, I think that's us noting that we're currently not as far progressed with the implementation of our WMMP that we would like. Part of that is a little bit about resourcing at the moment, which should be resolved in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully after next week's workshop, Councillor Tamihana, you feel far more informed about the work that we are doing and the work we aren't doing, because certainly there is enough funding there through our waste levy. It's just about how we deliver, I suppose how we ensure priority on delivery.
And just the last couple for me is, just wanted to note actually the transport activity, as has already been mentioned, but I think reading through this really highlighted to me how well that portfolio is being managed, given those restrictions and limitations, the loss of budget and all of those things, and we still seem to be tracking along really well with that. And I think it's worthy of a note, given those difficult space. And the last one,
Tamihana, could I just add in that? Thank you for that, and we'll make sure that's passed on to our Land Transport Manager. I probably want to note as well that that is also with a reduction in the size of the team, given the reduction of funding from NZTA.
Totally support that. And the last one in the SSPs for me was just CS3, which was around essential service organisations, and I note in there it said that we wouldn't get this information provided until the review period coming up in June, July, I think it was. But I'm probably just wondering, what are those anyway? We obviously already have them in place, but that's sort of important for some of us to know who are those essential service providers in our district. We're not doing OPM stuff yet, are we?
What page number are you referring to there?
Page 133, is that correct? 1, 2, 3.
I see.
Community organisations to ensure transparency. Is that the one?
And so your question, Councillor Tamihana, is there a way for us to know earlier that they're spending the money on what they said they would?
More about who are they?
Oh, okay. So they are the organisations that the Community Funding and Recognition Committee have allocated our grants to, which come via council by way of proceedings of that committee. So we can just recirculate the minutes of those meetings just to remind councillors about all those. So they're the community organisations who apply for funding from council.
Yeah, no, I do get that, but it's the word essential services that probably throws me off because that's not the same thing for me. So if it's I think you know what I mean, Monique. I don't actually understand the relevance to the words if it's about the groups that are being funded through that process. Sorry, but that's just...
And it could be, Councillor Tamihana, an example of where the SSP and how it's ended up being worded with audit doesn't necessarily match the terms of reference or guidelines of our funds. So, because there'll be different views on have some of the funds we've allocated to particular organisations, is that essential or is that being...
I suppose I'm just disclosing my confusion to it, that's all.
Yeah, fair call. We'll take the ways in action and we can provide some follow-up information to council on that.
I think about September agenda or minutes, you'll find the allocations that were made through that committee to those organisations. And before they apply, well, they have to respond, before the end of the financial year with an accountability report in terms of how that money's been spent. Councillor Grimstone.
Yeah, look, just referring to a question on SSPC 15 on page 121 of the agenda, just referencing the cemeteries with the commentary that is at 31 December, we had 3% availability versus a KPI or target of 10%. There's no commentary around kind of what we're doing about it, and I know that we are doing some mahi on it. I just feel that it's beneficial to
Thank you, Councillor Grimstone, through you, Your Worship. There is some work happening right now as part of our capital programs to at various cemeteries throughout the district to increase our capacity. So also noted that when we log the SSP, if there is work, we should tell that story as well.
All right, thank you. Again, commend officers for the volume of information and that is contained in the organisation performance report. I don't think there is anyone that could say that we're trying to hide or not disclose or not be transparent in terms of what goes on within this organisation. The community should have full trust and confidence that there is many things in here that if they really wish to understand what is going on in our community, this is the report to go to. So thank you. All right, moving to 8.2, elected members' attendance statistics from 1 July 2024 to 31st of December 2024. Could I move that the report be received and noted? Seconded by Deputy Mayor Allen. Any comments, questions? Councillor Tamihana.
Look, thanks, and don't mean to go back, Bernie, but I did signal that I wanted to raise some stuff around the operations part of that last section, and I asked if we were going to move on to that next, and I thought I got signaled we were. I did have a couple of comments to the OPM stuff.
Sorry,
I did have a couple of questions to the operations part of section of that last discussion, and I did signal that.
Oh, performance measures.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yes. All right. So we will go back.
Apologies for that.
Yeah.
Look, it was really just what I wanted to pick up on there was about the power consumption actually, and I just noted in there that in one part of it we have a 5% overall increase in our power costings, and then in the secondary part of it we've actually got a 12% overall increase in our district power expenses, but our target is 3% reduction. So I was really just seeking a little bit of clarity about what's the thing that's happening that's driving the cost up and not driving it back the other way, just to help us understand it.
Good question, Councillor Tamihana, and a question that the executive leadership team asked of the organisation yesterday as well. So I don't have the answer for you right now, other than we've asked for a report to come back on. Yeah, it's great we got the data. There was real progress last year around a decrease in energy consumption. So we're just trying to understand the why, but most importantly, and the what are we going to do about it.
Also, CS10. The issue around supporting cultural competency for the organisation, I just wanted to acknowledge that and give my support. I think that's a fantastic deliverable to our team. So I just wanted to acknowledge that in there. And I also noted in the LTP monitoring report, I'm really grateful to see the Waterbury Beach Surf Club matter closed out. I really want to take the time actually to thank officers for their time, but I feel it was wasted time. I feel that there were members that drove a process here that was actually uncalled for, that derived away from activities of our team. But as I said, I won't name it or what I feel, but I'll just say I'm grateful to see it's closed out. I have actually engaged the Surf Club personally, who are more than happy with the designation they currently hold, and they're very aware of those that were pushing the agenda upon them. And the last one was I look forward to tidying up our lease arrangements. I noted that we've gone through a lease review of all our properties. I certainly look forward to seeing the progress of that coming back to this table and how we're dealing with each of those matters that are unresolved or need tidying up.
So noted. Okay, as I said, moving to 8.2, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any comments, questions? I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Right, moving to 8.3, the long-term plan 2024-2044 monitoring report for February. Move the report be received and noted, seconded by Deputy Mayor Allen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Any questions in respect of this report? Moving to 8.4, the Council Resolution and Actions Monitoring Report for February 2025. Move the recommendation of the report be received and noted, seconded by Deputy Mayor Allen. All those in favour? Against? Carried. And any questions or clarification sought on this report? Thank you. All right, so now moving to, that's the end of our public agenda. I'd like to move C1, which is to exclude the public from the following parts of the proceedings of this meeting, which is to consider the Council Resolution and Actions Monitoring Report for February 2025. Seconded by Deputy Mayor Allen. All those in favour? Against? Carried.